Okay, hello. We are here for the Arrrgh Booked Book Club live discussion of, oh my gosh, it's stuff. The God of Endings by Jacqueline Holland. So I was very excited to read this. It's been
I thought it was really a cool premise.
yes. I think I finally figured out what it is that I like in a vampire story. So this was definitely it. I think my preferred vampire is sort of the tortured vampire. I think I like that and like the literary nature of this better than a lot of the other things I've read. So I gave this 5 stars.
I would probably give it 4.5. I thought it was very compelling. Like it was like I read it straight through. It was there was no point at which I felt like the story changed its like pacing. Like I felt like it was really consistent throughout. So it was really easy to get through. The reason it doesn't make a 5 for me is because while I also like the human aspect vampire stories where they're like, because immortality is no joke. Like like when I think about vampires, I'm like, what must that feel like? Like this endless stretch of years, both in front and back of you at a certain point, like a sort of at the age she is. And I liked the exploration of that. And I liked her humanity because you don't suddenly transform into like something else, right? Like you're immortal, but like you still have all the feelings towards, the people who come into your life. So I loved that about this book, but I wish that there had been a little bit more of like, what does that immortality give you in terms of like just being someone who's indestructible,
Yeah,
like,
I can see that because there were a few moments where I was like, she shouldn't be afraid here.
Yeah.
She should be fine. Like they can't do anything to her, but yeah. But yeah, so, I kept thinking about Tuck Everlasting actually while I was reading this because it has a lot of that same discussion of like being immortal isn't exactly what you think it is. Like you're stuck here. Everyone's going to die except for you. And you just have to deal with that. And so like, I really liked that conversation and like her kind of reflecting on what it means to live forever and how lonely that can be and how she keeps trying to reach out to people and trying to find companionship. And it just never seems to last.
Yeah. Like in terms of the loneliness of humans too, right? Like where like you're in a position where maybe you aren't finding your people and like, but there's that whole, we say to ourselves, like this too shall pass. And like, there's different stages. But when you stretch out that timeline, it must be so much more. It's not like the days are shorter. It's like the days become longer because there's just an endless parade of them. I loved how this book did the past and the present, like the interweaving of the timelines. I thought was done.
I thought that was really well done.
Yeah. Like I never felt jarred, when she would go back and forth. Like it was very like it, I don't know, like I learned what I needed to learn from her past story at just the right times in her present story. Like it made for a very, I don't know, cohesive kind of timeline interweaving. Because in some books like this that do the time jump, you're like, what's happening right now? Like, who are these people? There was never that. Like her story was very continuous. And I felt like I didn't have gaps in her story either that mattered. Like I felt like we got all the pertinent pieces of her story. Like there wasn't a place where I was like, but what happened here? Like I felt like I knew the pieces, that the pieces she talked about actually did like something for the story. They weren't just like filler. I would have liked to see more about, so I finished it a few weeks ago, of the brother, the like mystical brother.
Oh yeah, I know who you're talking. I can't remember anyone's name, but yeah.
Yeah. I want to say I want to say Anya, but it's not Anya, right? It was like something. Anyway, but him. I would have liked to see more of his story. Like I didn't quite understand what was happening with the God of Endings thing when they went on that like hike to find the pregnant girl from the village and like he was feeling that heat and stuff. Like I wanted to know more about like that whole piece of it, like what sort of metaphysical.
I would have loved to get more of like the lore of like, what does it mean in this universe to be a vampire? Because like I don't remember specifically anything about like how they die, about like how like what.
So I looked up
what is
Slavic
it?
vampires
Yeah.
after this, just to see, because it felt Slavic-ish, you know?
Yeah, I mean, we have the god of endings is Chernoborg, who is
Right. Yeah.
a Slavic god. So
Right.
yeah, I would have loved a little bit more on that.
Apparently, like that Eastern European mythology of the vampire is very different from our current Dracula kind of thing, which is funny. But it was a lot of the lore centers around them being like is invisible. Like invisibility is a big like
Mm.
power. So it's like this invisible spirit that invades your house kind of thing. Like, you know, that's why the whole welcoming in thing,
Mm.
like I found that whole piece in there. It was interesting because I didn't feel like that really translated. And I thought it would have been really cool, actually, because I read this right around the same time that she gets to that area, you know,
Mm.
like, and is staying in the house with the lady and the brothers. Um, and I thought it would have been interesting if that scene where the house is being burned down and stuff, some of that power had manifested. Because I was like, that would have been, but you know.
Yeah, there was a lot of really interesting stuff that I would have liked a little bit of a deeper dive into, but I don't know. I think that would have maybe made the book overly long, perhaps.
Yeah.
And I'm wondering how much of that was there and they cut because like, okay, but we don't need it. We can like tighten it up. So, because like I thought the pacing was really good. And so maybe we didn't need more, but like my just curiosity about like how does all of this work? I would have liked more, but I don't know. I
and
thought
the
this
old
was
lady
really
too. Like I would have liked to know her thing.
Yeah.
You know, I loved how when why can I not remember any people's names? The character who takes her over there into Europe, you know, the vampire who accompanies her.
Yeah.
When he tells her at the end when he like shows up in her house again.
Augustine, something. Yeah.
Yeah. When he tells her, you know, like all things are in cycles. Like who knows if they're gone kind of thing. Like I thought that was really interesting. Like there's a different kind of immortality piece to that, you know, we don't get more details on, but I loved it. I thought it was really, I really liked how she stayed so human.
Yes,
You know?
like because I would think it would be hard to maintain your humanity living so long and living so long alone. Because like, yes, she was around people a lot, but she also had to stay to herself a lot and to constantly move and like disappear so people wouldn't like wonder what happened to her. So I would think it'd be hard to maintain your humanity. So I love the fact that one of the ways she does that is by working with children and like having them help her kind of keep her humanity. So I thought that was really interesting because at first I wasn't sure how I felt about like what she's a preschool teacher, like you live forever and that's what you choose to do with your time. Like I thought that was actually really interesting, and her relationship with the little boy Leo.
That was so sad. That whole thing. But it was very interesting how like the foibles of people and the strangeness of people, like it sort of, you know, it was just interesting to see how she could fall in love with a little boy, right? Who isn't hers, and like the problems kind of become hers, but she doesn't want them to be, but like, you know, there's this kid and like she can't let go of that feeling. And then I loved how it tied up at the end, you know, and how she would face the same dilemma that her grandfather had faced, you know, like, does he want this?
It was a really nice, like, way to show the cycles too. Yeah.
I liked it.
Actually, I really like too the story of that other girl, Hala, I think, where she was sort of her protege in Egypt. Like she rejected her. And that has haunted her for so many years. So now that with Leo, she's like, I can't reject him.
Yeah.
So yeah, I really enjoyed their relationship. And like, he was very precocious. And at first I wasn't sure I was buying that he was as young as he is, because I'm like, that's not how little kids talk. But like it worked, I think, with him being so precocious and him being like this gifted artist and having parents who were not really parents to him.
Yeah, I think nothing ages you like that, right?
Mm-hmm.
Probably, you know, is abuse. So,
Yeah. I was
but
so mad at his mother
yeah,
to make him think that he'd murdered his brother and like
the
all
horror of
that.
that.
Oh, I was so mad. It's like,
Yeah.
what kind of horrible person does that to their child?
And then
Like, you
tells them
comfort
that
them.
it's like a secret they have to keep now for his
Mhm.
sake, like rather than hers.
Yeah.
Well, secret keeping in general, right? The moment you tell a child, like, there's this thing you can say and this thing you can't say, the
Hmm.
burden of that anyway. And then to make it such a horrible burden. But no, it was very well done, I thought. I mean, I liked a lot of pieces of it, like her youth and like I also found it to be interesting that it's sort of like what would happen if like this like ornery prickly person, this like introverted prickly person is now suddenly turned into a vampire. Like
Yeah.
she was just like happy with her dad and her brother and like learning to become like of all things like a gravestone marker carver like
I
you know
loved the like gothic nature of it too, because it
yeah
was gothic without being like in your face gothic,
yeah
like I really liked that. And yeah, like the being the stonemason, the making the gravestones, I thought
yeah
that was so interesting. I want a whole book just of that.
I
But yeah.
know. And then finding it and everything. I loved when the grandfather finds her at the priest's, like, where they're keeping her and like basically like waiting until she dies, I guess.
Mhm.
Um and when he comes and takes her, they tell him about the fears of her being like basically a vampire and he like laughs. He's like, "Oh yeah, we have those stories." And it's like, that was funny.
Yeah.
So,
And I thought the way that she was feeding herself on animals was interesting too, because like
mhm.
sometimes that's done and it feels silly.
Yeah.
And this time it actually made sense and it worked, I
Yeah.
think, with the story.
Yeah.
So I
And she
actually,
gets hurt doing it, which
yeah,
also makes sense.
yeah. So I liked that because that doesn't always work for me. Like sometimes I get like annoyed with them. I'm like, you're immortal. Like if you eat a person, like you don't have to kill them. You can just feed from
Feed.
them and but so for her to like almost entirely maintain on just eating animals was
Yeah.
interesting.
I also thought that how she was gonna take Leo back now, her grandfather, and have like a community and stuff.
Hmm.
All of that felt so human. Like you're at this place
Yeah.
now where you're like, I think when she decided to turn Leo, she's finally accepted, like after however many hundreds of years or whatever, that like you're a vampire. Like you're an immortal. Like,
Yes. Yeah,
there's no
because
going back
you
from this.
watch her throughout the whole book, like desperately clinging to humans and
Yeah.
wanting so badly to be a
Yeah.
part of their world and like still being human, even though she isn't. Like she
Yeah.
hadn't fully accepted what had happened to her.
Yeah.
And yeah, so again, with that whole cycle thing, you see her finally accepting it and then going back and becoming one of the vampires instead of trying to
Yeah.
hide from them.
Yeah. It was like a big homecoming story. It was like a coming of
Mhm.
age story for a vampire, which just
Yeah.
had an
Oh
extended
my gosh,
timeline.
yeah, I hadn't even thought of it like that,
Yeah.
but you're right. Yeah, it is definitely a coming. Maybe that's what I liked about it too then, because I always enjoy coming of age stories.
Yeah.
I
It
just
felt
hadn't
very
really fully connected that.
genuine.
Yeah.
Yeah. Her evolution wasn't sudden. There wasn't some big thing that happened.
Hmm.
I felt like it was piece by piece by piece. Even seeing Augustin, right? Like I
Yeah,
think that's
something like that. I can never get his name right.
when even seeing him again, like finally, like their relationship isn't so contentious. She doesn't have all
Hmm.
of this, like, like you owe me better than this. Like you have to do this for me. Like,
Yeah.
like you're not taking care of me properly. Like at some point, it just sort of all comes together. The banality of like having to find the paperwork, like his job is to make sure all these like property trails and stuff like stay intact for her grandfather and everything. It was very practical, you know.
The stuff you don't really think about. But yeah,
Yeah,
someone has to
somebody has
keep up with
to sign the
it.
deed. Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
So no.
Thought it was neat that this was her debut. I had to like
Mhm.
double check that because it didn't feel like a debut. It felt
It did
like
not at all. Yeah.
this was like an author who'd been writing for a long time. But yeah. Now I hope she comes out with something else because I want to read more.
Mm-hmm. But I don't want a sequel to this one.
No, I don't want a sequel either. Yeah. I think this was like a perfect story as is. I don't need to know what happens now.
Yeah, the pacing. And I love the ending. Like my child, like calling for me under the ground or whatever, that whole, however she wrote that better than what I just said. It was very,
the writing in this was very, very beautiful. Like,
yeah.
I didn't annotate this time because I mostly listened to the audio, but I do want to go back and read it again and tab things because there was a lot of like really just gorgeous lines.
Yeah. There were, without being heavy-handed. I thought most of all, her, like, it felt very honest, like a journal. Like, it felt very like...
Yeah. Like, I felt like I was almost reading her diary at times. Like, she was telling me things that maybe I wasn't supposed to know, but yeah.
And she wasn't, like, apologizing all the time or, like, trying to be something she... You know, there wasn't any, like, stretching for, like, feeling. It was just sort of, like, very, like, this is how you feel in this moment. Like, this is how you feel when your house burns down. This is how you feel when... This, I don't know. I did very much enjoy it. It was not what I was expecting. Like, when all of the stuff started to happen with Leo and his family and stuff, I was like, where is this going?
Yeah. I kept waiting to see, like, I did not know why we were paying so much attention to Leo and like what was important here.
Exactly.
So yeah, I really liked where it went with it though.
No, at the beginning I was like, maybe there's like something like maybe there's a vampire thing going on in his family. Like
that's what I thought too. I was like, is he perhaps a vampire?
Yeah.
And that's why we need to pay attention.
And that's why he's so precocious or something. Yeah, there's something going on. But there was also, and the police officer thing I thought was very fun too.
Yeah.
Because I was nervous. I was like,
yeah. That's
our level of tension. The police officer? Yeah. Don't kill the police officer. She's just enjoying herself in the country for once.
Yeah.
From New Jersey. So. No, but it was good. Very good.
I think in some ways it reminded me a bit of The Historian, which I really need to reread because it has been so long. It has
been on my shelf forever. I have not.
Oh, I read it. I don't even know now.
Started it and then I
15 years ago.
Yeah, I started a long time ago on a trip. I started, I liked it, and then I think I lost it for a while because it was on a trip and I stayed at someone's house and I don't know. It was very weird. Yeah, but it was a long time ago. Where is it? I feel like it's in this room. You know, like when you feel a book vibing at you?
Yeah.
Like, yeah, I'm that book you haven't read.
Yes.
You're supposed to be reading. I think it is in this room.
I think I want to reread it sometime because this reminded me of it, but I can't tell you why it reminded me of it because like it's been too long since I've read it, but it felt similar in ways.
Just Did she write another book with a title of Swans?
Yes, I own that too. I have not read it though.
Yeah, I have that too.
Yeah. Because I remember thinking at the time, like after reading the story, I'm like, I'm going to read everything this woman writes.
Yeah.
And then I did not.
Yeah, there is a lot. Next year, my plan is really, really not more than this year, even to read what's on my shelves.
I say that every year. And sometimes I do well with it, and sometimes I don't.
Yeah, next year's supposed to be no by year too. So.
Just read my shelves because, like, there's always other things. But yeah.
Yeah. The first year I did a no buy year, I told Rick, I was like, you know, and you make categories. And he's like, so what are you not buying? And I was like, you know, I'm not going to buy anything except for books. And he's like, I don't know what, do you hear what you said? Like, literally, this is the only thing you buy, like skincare and books. So I was like, yeah, I won't buy any skincare. So, yeah.
Well, I have been trying to buy less books. And I'm not sure I'm succeeding at that as well as I'd like, but I'm trying. I'm trying to like only pre-order like things that I absolutely know I'm going to read. Because sometimes in the past I pre-order everything because everything sounds great. And then I get the things and I'd never read them. So yeah.
I heard your disclaimer on Instagram for people who are like, you know, the whole like, how do you read so much kind of thing. And I was like, yeah, like I thought it explained yourself very well.
Thank you. I feel bad though when people message me and they're like, oh my God, how do you read that much? I only read this much. And I'm like, oh, don't compare. Like,
I think I've done that to you in the past. I'm like, dude, I thought I liked to read. But,
like, no. I am not normal.
It's a lot of reading. But like you said, it's like your work also. So it makes a big difference. But no, I realized, like this whole book buying thing and book reading thing are two separate hobbies.
They are.
That really hit home for me. Like, it's like they really are.
And I'm trying so hard to rein in the buying part. Because like
I'm okay with it, but my house is full now. It really is.
My shelves are full. Like I'm out of space. And I keep trying to get rid of things. Like I've got a giant stack across from me here that I pulled off my shelves and I still don't have space. I'm like, how did I do that? How have I somehow pulled like 50 books off my shelves and I have no space?
Looks like nothing happened. Exactly.
Yeah. No, I don't know. It's hard. It's hard to get rid of things.
Yeah. I mean, you're part of the problem for me because I pre-ordered books for Build Your Library years. And then you updated them, which is so fine. Great. But like, I was like, okay. And then, like some of my kids like really are not into reading that many books in a year, like after my eldest, I was like, well, I guess I'm reading all of them, and then that's fine. At some point, they've been added to my TBR. So,
yeah, I'm an enabler.
You are definitely an enabler. I mean, and like a dealer, and like you've done all the things for the books. No. My husband like knows who you are because like, I'm like, Emily from Build Your Library. Like, she did this book. It's funny when you asked me to look at my TBR for next year. Like, so I have this like, I have it written down, but I also have one just from screenshots on my phone that goes into an album called TBR. And like, you are in a bunch of them. Like, it's you holding up a book. And I was like, I don't have to mention this one to her. So, but anyway.
There are just so many books. Like, and I want to think I could read all of them. Like, that would be the best part of being a vampire, I think. And having the immortality is being able to read everything. Because sometimes I look at my shelves and I feel slightly panicked that like I'm not going to get to those books.
Like an existential dread. Yeah. There's only this much time left. Yeah. No, but there's plenty of time. At your reading speed, you'll be fine.
I would like to at least get halfway through what I own. I think if I could get halfway through, I feel like I'm in a good place.
Yeah.
I own a stupid amount of books, and I've only read probably a third.
That only works if you stop buying books, though. And there's no way.
Yes.
There's
that's
no
the
way.
Hard part.
So
every time I think I'm catching up, I'm like, no, I'm not. I'm just adding more.
Yeah. Did no one else join us for this book?
I don't think so. I haven't seen any comments or anybody.
Well, I hope they read it once they see it. If you guys are watching for the first time.
I think this was definitely one that's worth picking up. So
yeah.
This is one of the best books I think we read this year.
I agree. It was so enjoyable and so well written, which don't always go together.
Yeah. So I'm glad we ended the year on a high note.
Yeah, for sure. Literally the only thing from being a 5-star for me is I would have liked to see some like, some badassery also.
Yes. Yeah, I agree. I think that would have been nice to see her like using her power, like
and just being like, I thought it came out most honestly when she was like digging the hole and like telling the police officer like what she would find there. That was a great little thing too. She would find the whole like recycling, compost, like plastics, whatever.
Yeah,
not like an actual basically grave. But apart from that, really incredible job. Oh, hello, people are here. Lauren's here.
Oh, yes, hi.
I got a 5 for you.
Yeah. I definitely want to find more things like this because I've always said that I love vampires, but I hate vampire stories because I rarely find anything that I actually like. Like most vampire movies are not good. Most vampire books I've read have not been that good. So like I want to find things like this because I feel like this is one of the best vampire stories I've read.
Have you read Memnoch the Devil?
I have not. I what did I read? I think I got about halfway through Interview with the Vampire. And
Interview is not my favorite by her.
I don't even remember why I DNF'd it now. It was so long ago. I read it back at, like in high school. And so I don't remember what I didn't like.
It's good, but my favorite book by her is Memnoch the Devil. And I remember it's been decades since I read it. So I wonder if it'll hold up for me. But I remember being so struck by like the humanity piece of it, you know? So basically Lestat's in a bar and he runs into Memnoch the Devil. And like they just have a long conversation. Like that's the book. Like, and it goes through like lots of different like pieces of history of the devil and like vampirism and blah 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 and all this stuff. But like they were both like two guys at a bar, you know, like it had that real vibe of like that humanity piece that isn't lost, which I found really appealing. So I was just thinking, you know, if it's a humanity piece you're after, that might be a good thing to explore.
Because I like the interview with a vampire movie. And I really like Louis's character and how like depressed he is over the fact that he's immortal. Like that was something that I really liked about that story. And so like I'm not a fan of vampires who are monsters, and I'm not a fan of vampires who are like demons and who have no humanity left and they're just like robotic. Like the Sookie Stackhouse vampires kind of annoy me because they're like, we're not really human, but we look like we're human. And like, I don't know, I didn't love that.
I didn't read True Blood. I saw True Blood.
The books are fine. Like the first few are really fun. After that, it gets so off the wall wacky that I'm just like reading a train wreck happening. Like I can't stop looking. But the show does that too, so. I don't know. I'm just trying to find the right vampire books for me. And I think this one is definitely what I'm looking for. So now I'm on a quest
to find more.
Yeah.
I should read Memnoch the Devil again. I don't have it. It's like a book. I think I read it from the library ages ago.
I'll have to look for it because that does sound like it might be what I'm looking for.
ACOTAR was very formulaic. I was like, what is happening? But you know, Crescent City was, if you wanted to try another one of her books. So you don't have to read the second and third one after that. Crescent City was actually really good, I thought, the first one. You don't need the second. But the first one was great because it was a real exploration of friendship. More than anything else, I thought. It was a lovely story of friendship. And how it can break a person to lose that person, you know, like best friend figure. And then learn that they were keeping secrets from them and stuff like that. But, no. And her Throne of Glass series was much, much better. It got kind of sad towards the end. I mean, like, sad in the sense of like, okay, why are we like reading so many 800-page books? Like, but the beginning was great. So
I've never read any of those because I'm like, oh, they're like romances, right? And I don't generally enjoy that.
I don't think Throne of Glass really is that much. I mean, it is towards the end, but it's a lot.
I know ACOTAR is. That's definitely
ACOTAR is really. I was like, this is the book that brought you back into. I'm very judgy about that one. I'm like, this is the one that made you think, I should really start reading again. No, but I was like, surely not. Surely not. I was like, I don't know. There's certain books where I'm like, you definitely did not read the books you weren't supposed to read when you were younger. If you're like this motivated by like this now, you know, that's just me. I won't get into that because it's important to like what you're reading. And if you love it, you love it.
I try not to judge people's reading. Yeah. Then I feel like I'm being a book snob. I'm not trying to be a book snob, but yeah.
I'm only a book snob about Colleen Hoover because I restrained
Okay,
my opinion.
that is where I draw a line. I do judge people on Colleen Hoover.
Yeah. I read one finally.
I read Verity.
I didn't read Verity. I read
Verity.
Verity's supposed to be her better one.
If that is what her better one is, then I honestly don't know what to say to people.
I read It Ends With Us and I was like, what is happening here?
Well, see, I didn't think I'd like her other books because they're very like romance heavy, I think, according to other people. And so I'm like, Verity is supposed to be like this psychological thriller and it's dark and twisty. And I'm like, okay, no. I was not a fan. And I was like kind of mad when I finished it. I'm like, wait a second. This is what you guys think is like top tier psychological thriller.
That's the thing. I read it because I walked into Barnes & Noble. Was like, because I heard the whole Colleen Hoover thing. And then I saw like this giant like Colleen Hoover dedicated tower. Very cool tower thing. Like it wasn't just a table. It was like, like a floral centerpiece kind of deal. And I was like, fine, I'll read one of these books. I did not buy it though. I like borrowed it from a friend. And I was like, this was bad. Like so bad. Like so I don't mind judging that. I really don't. But everything else. Fantasy is a whole genre unto itself. I did try to get through Priory of the Orange Tree, and I could not do it. Have you read it?
I have not. I have the ebook. Sarah read it and has been trying to convince me that I would like it, but I'm like, listen, that is a super long book. Fantasy is not my preferred genre. I just don't think I could do it.
Yeah. No.
Hey, it's okay. It's okay.
I've read a lot of fantasy, but I think I'm much more old school fantasy, and the new fantasy is a little bit new for me.
I can do fantasy if it's like a world that I already sort of know. So like historical fantasy or like things like Lord of the Rings that I've like been reading that since I was tiny. So like I know it. Yeah. I have a hard time though with world building. So I generally don't pick up fantasy.
That was the thing with Priory of the Orange Tree for me. I was like, I like world building, but I don't like it when it's like so much world building. Like I need something to happen in the story.
Yeah.
Like I don't want to just meet like 80 characters in a row.
Yes.
In different mountains. Like
too many place names, too many like things I need to remember, and like how does the magic work? And I get lost so fast.
Yeah. But I do like historical fantasy when they like mix it into things. Like I'm like, that's fun.
Yeah, that's my favorite.
So
because then I already know the world. You don't have to like explain how my world works.
Exactly.
I get that.
Yeah,
now you
the
can
magic
just
is
add some magic to it.
Yeah.
Hey, it's okay. Oh my gosh, the UPS truck out front was driving my dogs crazy.
No, but I don't want to throw Sarah J. Maas people under the bus because Throne of Glass was great. I finished that series this year, and I enjoyed every minute of it. It was fun until the last few, but the setup was really easy, so it wasn't very complex. It's the one she wrote when she was like 16, the first one. So it's the least self-conscious, like it's the least like this is what will sell well, which helped. I looked down for a second because my husband called me like 3 times. I was like, what is happening? Just a potting soil question. Nothing urgent.
I think I'm just not a fan of like really long running series because then I feel like I have to commit. And I'm really bad at remembering to read the next book in a series.
Yeah. I think they were all on sale one day for Kindle. So got it that way. But
like I can handle a duology, I can handle a trilogy, but beyond that, I'm probably not.
What are you reading now? I saw your November list. This was the first one for finishing in November, but what are you reading next?
Right now, what is the name of it? I'm mostly reading middle grade right now for the Sybils. I forget the name of the book I'm reading. Hold on. I don't remember where I was reading it. Oh, yeah. Okay. I'm reading Banned Books, Crop Tops, and Other Bad Influences by Bridget Young.
It's a great title.
Which is surprisingly good because I was not sure this was something I was going to like, but so far it's actually better than I like. It's a friendship story, but it opens with a quote from My So-Called Life.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm like,
that
okay,
is...
you got my attention.
Yeah.
So, and both of the characters are Jewish, and so like they're, which I did not know going into this. I didn't really know anything besides there's banned books, something to do with banned books. But I think it's like a good girl makes friends with this like perceived bad girl and like their relationship. And I haven't gotten to the banned books part yet, but I assume that's coming soon.
Yeah. I don't know what I'm gonna read right now because I just finished a series, and then I'm in like a productivity book club too, so I read one of those, which are always good palate cleansers for like, how fast can I skim this book? So I did read a great productivity book though, if anybody like hates productivity books like me, called Time. What is it? Now I can't remember the title, but it's basically a book that acknowledges that there's no possible way you're going to control your time. And he goes into lots of like history about like these different people who've written other productivity books and things like that, which I find so charming. It's like the Time Management for Mortals. It's called 4,000 Weeks, Time Management for Mortals, because we have about 4,000 weeks to live. And it's a very interesting approach to this whole like, idea of not having enough time. And he's just like, you don't.
That's good.
Step one.
Because I always feel like people are trying to tell me that I could do it if I wanted to. And I'm like,
it was a big relief.
Lack of trying.
I liked it. It was very much like, how some books are like, there's just like ruthlessness to like, sort of harnessing every second of like your day to be like somewhat productive. But you also have to be like ruthless about guarding your free time and stuff. This one's very like all of this, like trying to like seize control so hard is what's like making you stressed.
I can see that. Yeah.
No.
I definitely get stressed out when I start thinking about how I'm not doing what I'm supposed to be doing. No, yeah.
I have never, I mean, I've read, nonfiction books in this genre that are helpful, that have like this tip or that tip, and like I'll implement them and they're helpful. But this one is like much more philosophical, and like it's not short, which is interesting, but it's like it's not long either. But it's like, like a lot of these books have like really big graphics, and like they'll have like, really big titles and like quotes of what they just said. Like, it's not as long. This one's like more meaty, but I just found it to be very refreshing. The other ones all seem to say the same thing, and this one was very new. So, but yeah, I'm having the kids listen to Mythos by Stephen Fry at night when they can't go to sleep.
Oh, I think I have the audio for that. I've just never gotten around to it, but it does sound like
his audio is great. It is. I love it in his voice. Like, but yeah. So I'm like, if you're bored, just put on Stephen Fry. You can it's very adult, but I'm like, whatever, it's fine. His Greek mythology. And I was like, just listen to his British accent, lull you to sleep, and maybe you'll get some by osmosis. Yeah.
Oh, that's what we're starting next week. Or I guess this week coming up. Regina and I are going to be reading her first Discworld book. This is Reaper Man, which
I have not read any.
One of the death books. And I am so excited. I think we're going to do the audio because British accents are always great to listen to. But also, I think it's a full cast audio, which is always, the Discworld audio books are almost always full cast, and they're so fun. So
yeah. I was listening to Sandman, the audio. All the Neil Gaiman stuff notwithstanding. It's also disappointing. But yeah, no. And it's very well done. It's also like a full cast audio. So it's very exciting. But yeah. So we are going to get back together for another book. We're taking.
Yeah, we'll come back
December.
in January. So I'm going to have a video probably the first week or so of December where I'll announce the first 3 books of the year. I definitely know the first book. After that, I don't know yet. I'm still trying to figure out like what will fit best where. Well,
yeah, it'll be funnier.
Yeah, I'm looking forward to it. I don't know. I always get excited, like planning out my year and like what things I want to read and figuring out the reading challenges and making goals and things. It keeps me from like dwelling too much on like another year has passed.
Yeah, that's what I mean when next year I'm just going to focus on reading on my shelves. That's it. That's my focus. I'm going to be like, just pick a book and read that book. And don't keep adding to your TBR in like your frenetic weird way. Like my frenetic weird way. That's my goal.
Yeah.
So
I think I've said in the last like, I don't know, 3 or 4 years, like every year, I'm like, this year is the year I'm going to read my shelves. And I start out fine. Like, I think I'm good for like the first 3 months or so. And then after that, it's like, oh no.
I'm going to call you up this year because you did this shelf clean out and you had posted like all these books that you had gotten rid of or you were getting in the process of getting rid of. And then like 2 weeks later, you posted like a book haul. Like, and it was like...
But look, I got rid of all these things.
Good job. Good job.
I deserve a treat.
It wasn't small either. It was like a good set stack.
Yeah.
I was like, good job. Good job.
I'm not good at this.
It's like, yeah. She saw like briefly the back of one bookshelf.
It's like I made space. So no, I didn't even make space. That's the sad part.
Yeah. It was real funny though. I was like, oh, look at her doing the thing. And then I was like, oh. There it is. No. But I've been doing good, sort of. We'll see. Next year's my year. We'll see if I can make it happen.
I hope we both can. I'm really hoping I can rein it in enough that I can at least like read things that I own and then perhaps get rid of the ones that I'm not enjoying. Are you
going to go on TikTok at any point?
I do not have TikTok. I keep telling myself I do not need it because I will just spend too much time there and I already have enough of those.
I feel like you should have your own book talk.
I've thought about it, but then I'm just like, no, I don't need one more thing. But like, I feel like I'm on the fence
the community there. I mean, I feel like you'd fit right in. You know, like it. I feel like the reading community there, TikTok's algorithm is remarkably good at figuring out like what you actually want to see in a way that Instagram is not. And that's what I've appreciated the most. So like even with books and stuff.
Yeah, I don't. Yeah, I'm just afraid of like giving myself one more time wasting thing. But yeah,
I will say I look at Instagram a lot less. I mean, and like TikTok has figured out like, oh, you want to see like archaeology videos and like weird discoveries and also books and like these types of books. Like it sort of culls it for you, which is nice, you know. So
I might have to check it out. I don't know. I've been avoiding it for so long. So, like I don't have time. But yeah.
No. You have to interrupt the flow of fantasy book talk, you know? I feel like there's not as many other people on there. So it would be good to see you on there too. But anyhow, so I guess we are done for the
Yeah, this is it. The last book club of 2024. That feels so weird to say. Like I'm not mentally at the end of the year
November.
Yet.
Yeah,
I'm still like arguing with the calendar. Like, no, you're not. It's not November.
Yeah,
surely it is
2025. I still remember the turning like into the 2000s, and now it's 2025. Like a full quarter way century. We're basically immortal at this point. Like I feel like if you're like our generation, it feels like so much has happened.
Too much has happened. I would like less to happen.
I know.
I am overwhelmed with how much has happened.
Yeah. Too much has happened. That's a good way of putting it. But we shall see. I'm looking forward to... I'm still at that stage where I still get excited about, like, maybe next year it's just going to be like a year where nothing bad happens.
Your inner Anne Shirley. Like, it's a year with no mistakes in it yet.
Exactly. It really is.
I would like to get to that place again. I feel like the last couple of years have like made me a lot more cynical than I used to be. I used to be much more of an optimist. I miss that. I want to be an optimist again.
Yeah, I think staying off social media has me regain a little bit of perspective.
I need to get away from social media. I feel like I've gotten into a bad spot again, like where I'm there way too much. It's definitely not helping.
Yeah, I mean, that's the thing. That's why I like the TikTok book talk thing. Like, it really just like, oh, this is all you want to see? I'm like, yes. I don't want to be sold anything. I just want to see people talk about their favorite books or their things that they think are like rated well that aren't, you know, and vice versa. The underrated, the overrated. So what would you say so you think this is your favorite of the year?
Yeah, I don't know. I'm going back and forth. I need to figure it out because I usually do a video where I rank everything I read for book club. And so like, I really don't know. I was making notes because like I keep in my bullet journal, I have like a little place where I track everything we read and I rate them. But now I'm sitting here trying to figure out how to rank them. And I'm like, I don't know. Some of them I feel like are tied.
And we read very different styles of book.
Yes.
Too. Yeah. It wasn't like a whole year of like historical fiction or whatever. That makes it harder for me. Like the way because you know, you have a bias towards the books that you like, period. Yeah. So, but this one was definitely up there for me though.
Yeah, I think this one and the postcard are two of the best books I think we read.
Yeah.
I think those were definite standouts for me. Yeah, I don't know. I don't know how I'm going to end up with this ranking because some of them I feel like are all like on the same level. So I don't know how to rank them, but
I think this one, and for me, like I really liked Ordinary Monsters. Like
that one too was also really good. Like I haven't started the sequel yet, but I definitely want to. And so that's how I know it was good because like I want to know what happens next.
Yeah. So I heard that was a DNF for a lot of people, like when I was talking to my friend. And I was like, you have to, I think some people lost the thread of it, like kind of like after the train, you know, where they were like, well, nothing happened after the train, you know, like it was like, like they were expecting this something and they didn't get the something. And they were like, they're still just like learning. I still have no idea what the R scene is, you know, like.
So. I thought that one was really good. And that surprised me because it was so long and it's a fantasy. So like, I wasn't sure exactly how it was going to go, but I ended up really liking that one. So
I think those two, this one and that one, are probably my favorites of the year. I also really liked Atomic Anna, even though I don't remember what I rated it, but like I had more issues with that
one a lot too. That's one that stuck with me more than I thought it would.
Yeah. So, but honestly, even like the God of Living Things, is God of Endings, God of
Endings
is this one, not that one though, the other one, the one we just read before this one.
Oh, what's it called? Future God
of
the Home of the Living God.
The Home of the Living God. Okay, right. It's like there's a lot of gods going on, but that one also stuck with me. Like I thought it was really like innovative and like novel, like the whole idea. But that one I had more issues with too because I was like, I don't find this to be entirely realistic. For like her reactions to things, you know. And that one, the ending was really disappointing to me. I was like, what?
Would you say that's the most disappointing book we read this year, or was there one that you liked less than that?
Well, I don't know. I don't want to say it's the most disappointing. I think the most disappointing to me was Salt to the Sea, because I expected a much more deep emotional impact from that. And I didn't get one
that I even read that. I was looking at my list. I was like, oh, that's right. We did read that.
Like that book, I felt like the event itself, like learning about the event, was more impactful to me than the book. You know, the fact that it made me look that up and learn more about it.
Mm-hmm.
But
which is surprising because I would have said Ruta Sepetys is a favorite author, and so like I've really loved everything else I've read. So that one's being so forgettable was kind of disappointing.
I don't know what it was. I was like, the characters that I cared about the most, I didn't learn about, and the characters I couldn't really connect to seemed to be like the focus in a way. And I was like, I need something here to be different. Like there was some weighing of like internal stories there that didn't fit well for me, you know? Like,
yeah.
It wasn't that there were too many characters. It was just that I couldn't latch on to anyone.
Yeah, I don't think anyone really had much development. They were all very much a caricature of a person rather than a fleshed out character.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That was that. So, yay. I'm happy you enjoyed the book club. I've really enjoyed the book club. Thank you for asking me to hop on here with you.
Said yes to it because I think this has been like the most fun I've had in book club.
Oh, great.
So yeah, having someone to bounce things off and like talk, I think that makes it so much more fun.
Yeah, and just to see like, I think why somebody would give it like, you know, a 3.5 versus like a 4.5. Like that's a big difference, you know? Like it doesn't seem like it, but it is. And like I think it's interesting. And where you're disappointed in characters or authors, those are also two different things. So
yeah.
But I'm looking forward to next year. I think we both had good things on our TBRs to do. I will say that I wish after I submitted my list here, I was like, I wish I had put one book out there that I had, that I owned on my shelves.
Oh, no. See, you made me buy things. I had to buy a couple books that you had on your list that I didn't own but was interested in. So I'm like, okay, now I have an excuse to purchase them.
Well, now, yeah, this whole book club has been an excuse.
You're an enabler too.
Barely. That is, I mean, pot kettle. There's no way. Anyway. So, I mean, Rick will say, like, did Emily tell you to buy that book? Probably. So, but anyway. All right.
There are worse things to be.
Yeah, right? Yeah. I mean, if you go down in history as the person who made people read more books, that's good. So, all right.
Yeah, so thank you all for coming. It was so much fun this year to talk with everybody about books and just hear everyone's thoughts. So thanks for participating. Yeah. And thank you, Tanya, for saying yes and joining me for book club.
I appreciate you asking. I really do. It was really like one of the highlights of the year. So
I agree. So okay, why don't we wrap this up and we'll see you back again in January. So stay tuned in December. If you want to know what we'll be reading for the first 3 months, I'll be announcing that probably the first week. I haven't really planned that out yet, but either the first or second week in December. So I'll be announcing it then. So see you guys in 2025.
Yeah.
Happy reading.
Happy reading. Bye.